Okay, well, the first thing I can say about this car is it's got quite an appealing and unusual driving position. I feel very deeply seated within the car, and the car is wrapped around me, which is quite unusual actually. The only other car I can think of that does that is the old style Beetle, and a car which would be on the opposite end of the spectrum would be the Mercedes. Mercedes, you're often looking down and out through the windscreen. With this one, I feel like I'm actually in a bowl and I'm peering out the windscreen. It's very, very, very odd. Now, the actual car itself is immensely comfortable. This chair I'm sitting in, it's soft and it's wrapping around me, and I think there would be a danger of actually wanting to fall asleep driving this car. It's that comfortable. So 10 out of 10 on a comfort basis. Now, saying that, on the instrument cluster, the speedo and the rev counter dials in front of me now, normally the top of the steering wheel obstructs the vision in most cars. Now with this one, it's not actually the top of the steering wheel, it's actually the center. How weird is that? Now obviously I can adjust the position of the steering wheel like I can in most cars, but I have to confess I don't want to do that because the driving position now suits me fine. So a bit of a weird design that, because at the end of the day in so many cars this is obstructed, so surely the best way to deal with that is to put the instrument cluster in the middle. And there's only one car I can think of that does that, and that's the Nissan X-Trail. Oh, actually the Mini as well. So I don't quite know what's going on there, but that would be a problem, and it's things like that that would stop me from buying this car. Now as for the center console, well, that's nicely laid out. It's minimalistic, simple and operating. You look down, you can see what's going on. However, it is hard to distinguish what button does what, so there could be a color code reference there to make it easier. On the visibility side, the side mirrors here are, I was going to say they're a little bit too near to me. It'd be nice if they were a bit further out and a bit higher up, and they could possibly be a bit wider as well. As for the rear view vision, well, it is obstructed by the headrest, but not to a big degree. But what really does get on my nerves is this wind wiper on the rear window. Alright, it's not really blocking the vision, but what it is it gets my attention every time I look in the mirror, which is a bit annoying. And other cars tend to have the seat belts hanging down from the headlining, which yet again doesn't obstruct the vision, but your attention gets drawn to it. When you're driving a car, your attention wants to be on the road and nothing else really. So these little niggly things, you know, I mean, maybe you can acclimatise if you like and get used to them, but you know, they do tend to annoy you after a little while. It's got an enormous dashboard on here. I'm sure if somebody went camping, an infant could sleep on there. The gear stick's in a nice position, central and high up, which is good. Got a 5-speed manual here. So all in all, on a comfort basis, I'd say this car was very good. And as far as headroom goes, I've got more headroom in this vehicle than I can think of any other vehicle I could possibly drive. I've messed around with the seats and I've tried raising the seats to see if it makes much difference, and I can come up, but it's not really altering the perceptics of certain things, like the blocking of this part here and the instrument cluster and the wing mirrors. So you really would have to mess around with this car to get it right with regards to the seating position, whereby everything actually does work for you. I think ergonomically this is an odd car. That's probably the best way to describe it. Now the brakes, I'm not too impressed with the brakes either. The brakes, they're obviously working, but it just doesn't seem like you can apply a gradual pressure. They're a bit hard. The sort of effect you'd get off driving a car with drum brakes, which obviously won't be the case in this car, but That's what it feels like. It feels like you've got drum brakes and you've got no control of them. They're either on or they're off. They're not grabbing, but they don't really feel like you're in control of the vehicle in that sense. One thing I will say in favour of this car though, it drives along very nicely. We really are floating down the road now, and it is very comfortable to drive indeed. Steering, well, steering's a bit vague, a bit floaty, and the car bops around a lot. I would not like to be in this car and have to do an emergency swerve. If you're thinking about buying this vehicle, I would urge you to take other manufacturers' models for a test drive, because I think you could probably do a bit better than this one. It's not the greatest in its class.